Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it's good to make believe, and that's what we're doing in today's video. A likely scenario? No, it's not, but the Habs making the playoffs, we've identified 5 reasons that we want to dive deep today. You're joined along Justin, Mackie, and Missing Alex. Together we make the No Respect podcast and looking at the 5 different ways that we believe, truly believe, that the Habs can make the playoffs, all right? So let's get into it, and if you have any ideas yourself or things that we missed, please go ahead, roast us. Do you think we're completely out of our minds? We know we're out of our minds, but that's why we're doing this video, right, Justin? Let's get into it.
Firstly, Nick and Cole. Must I say more?
No.
Cole has to continue his insane pace at the last part of the season there. I think he had like 23 goals in 47 games under Martin St. Louis. So he has to continue that. I think this year he can get up to 30 for sure, and I'm hoping on 40. And now the captain, new captain Nick Suzuki, has to be our bona fide 1C. And he has to be a 200-foot player. What he's been doing the last couple of years, it's just he has to take that extra step, I think, if we're gonna make the playoffs, which is already a big ask.
It's a huge ask. We already know that. So I come back to what Max Domi did that year, where we weren't necessarily supposed to make the playoffs. We didn't, but that was a year that we made it close, and I think it was one of the highest amounts of points that the Montreal Canadiens got, or in the NHL record, to not make it into the playoffs. And that was the season where Max Domi got, I believe, somewhere in the 70 to 80 point mark. Now I think that's key for Suzuki to be doing that, and like you said, Cole Caulfield, for this to be even a possibility. And when we're recording this video, all 5 things need to happen. All 5, all right? And including the 6th, which is probably hell freezing over. So we're completely aware, but let's have some fun. The next one up, this one is a good one, I think, because they're 2 new acquisitions, in Kirby Dach and Sean Monahan. And for me, I will be bold enough to say that I think only one of these 2 players needs to step up, but it's either going to be the emergence of Kirby Dach being that bona fide number 2 guy who was drafted 3rd overall, hasn't panned out to be the expectations that everybody assumed he would get to since being drafted in Chicago. Maybe that can change, but for me, it's Sean Monahan that I'm interested in, and I believe that's going to happen more surefire bet that if Sean Monahan returns to form, that he could be that bona fide number 2. And for me, that's going to be another key for this team to take its place in the playoffs. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, for sure. Sean Monahan, because of injuries, kind of just fell off a cliff. Like, he was consistently a 30 goal scorer and one of the top line on the Calgary Flames. So if he's 100% healthy, I totally believe he can come back to that form. Still to be seen if he is 100% healthy. Hip injuries I think it's a hip injury, right? Those can be very hard to come back from, but we're hoping for the best. And I think if he does put it together, he can be disgusting. Now, when it comes to Kirby Dach, I think it's mostly the offense. Like, if he can put the offensive game together, I know he's a kind of like all around player. So if he can put the offense together and kind of carry a line, he can be great. But he really has to take that next step if we're going to make the playoffs. Which every time I say that, I feel like I'm speaking like
listen, we don't even want them to make the playoffs with Connor Bedard around the corner. But this is, again, we're in the hypothetical. So we're moving on to number 3 for the Habs to make the playoffs here. And it's Jake Allen being healthy, first of all, and being nasty. Jake the Snake. We saw this when the Habs didn't have Carey Price, but he stepped up in a big way. Probably one of the only reasons that we were in it when he was there, because the team was a dumpster fire in terms of performance when he was playing. It seemed like Carey Price was like, injury was supposed to be the reason why we were losing games, and it wasn't, because Jake Allen was playing incredible hockey. And for the Habs to have a chance at making the playoffs, it needs to be with solid goaltending from Jake Allen. There's no ifs, ands, or buts on this one, and I don't believe that Samuel Motabo or even Caden Primo in this scenario is going to be the guy there.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think he has to, like, if we're going to make the playoffs, he has to play 60 or more games, and he has to play very, very well. And I
Yeah.
think Jake Allen, despite not playing any playoff games for us during our cup run, I think he was a huge reason for us getting to the playoffs that time. So I think he can potentially do it again. Hopefully, he's shown he's a very good goalie. He's like a number one caliber goalie, but he's been a backup the last few years. So hopefully he can keep it
Yeah.
together and stay healthy. And yeah.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. It's so that was number 3. That's still huge asks. Or so the first one, not too bad, but it's still a step up for Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. Then you're asking Sean Monahan to recover from a resurrection basically, and for Kirby Dach to take a next step in the span of a couple of weeks here, and he hasn't necessarily proven that. And Jake the Snake's got to be top cheese. So that's 3 things. Already, you had to hit the lottery 3 times. The next one's an even bigger ask, I think, and it's Michael Matheson turning into the family man and raising 3 children.
He must
4 children.
start a family.
He must start it right now. But jokes aside, I think that the 4th one here is Michael Matheson replacing Jeff Petrie when he was on his game, because we all know that Jeff Petrie, when he wasn't on his game, was practically a negative factor for the Habs. No disrespect to him, loved him as a player. God bless you and have fun in Pittsburgh. But the point is that Jeff Petrie, when he was on, he solidified that blue line, and that was with Shea Weber out. And he used to elevate his game when Shea Weber was out. And now we kind of need that presence, because when you look down the blue line, that's really our weak spot here in the Montreal Canadiens organization now, with everybody gone and the moves that we've made. And it's normal. This is not a team that's supposed to make the playoffs. But for it to happen, Michael Matheson had a pretty decent year in Pittsburgh, getting 31 points or 32 points with 11 goals. And when you look at the numbers that Jeff Petrie was putting up with the Montreal Canadiens, it's not all just points. But if Michael Matheson can get to that 40-point mark and be a solid defensive presence, I think that that's going to be a key here for the Habs to have some kind of life on the blue line, and especially a veteran here that should be the go-to guy, which I believe it's going to be Michael Matheson.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that when you get points from the back end, your team is doing well, and I think that's a reason that we were so awful last season. Jeff Petrie couldn't produce offensively, and we didn't have any support from the back end to get those points. So if Michael Matheson can be that type of offensive player that can help out in the back end, it would help a lot, because we do have those. We have some young players that could be those type of players, but they're obviously not proven yet. And then we have like the Joel Edmondsons, the David Savards, the what's his name, Weidman. I want to say Chris Weidman.
Yeah, correct.
It's still Chris Weidman. Yeah, sorry.
It's still Chris. He has not changed his name. No,
not yet. We'll see. That's number 5. No, but offense from the blue line, always good, and maybe helping out on the power play as well. Yeah. Maybe if he gets 50 points, we'll make the playoffs. Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, listen.
But this one's a big ask too, because I don't think Michael Matheson is the type of defenseman to be able to be a 1D, but that's kind of what we're asking from him.
That's true. I don't even think Jeff Petrie was supposed to be that guy, to be honest. So It's not going to be through the defense that we're going to get this done, but having that emergence of Michael Matheson taking even more of a place is still going to be something that needs to happen, alongside maybe the emergence of our young D here. This list could be 20 things that need to happen, to be honest. So
in reality, it's like 1,000 things that need to go right. It's 1,000 lottery tickets that need to have the right numbers.
But hey, this is the content that you've been asking for, I'm sure. Let's go to number 5, the last one, which is a big one as well. But one of the teams that's in this goddamn Atlantic and Metropolitan Division needs to do like garbage, right? So Boston, I'm looking at you just because I don't like Boston. Obviously, the Toronto Maple Leafs, I'd love to wish some kind of a thing to happen to them as well in terms of underperforming, but it's not going to happen. So the team that I'm looking at is a Boston Bruins that's getting a bit older, getting up there, but they've been able to keep the pieces that they need. So we need one of these teams, and I would even say that hopefully in the wild card race, that there may be some teams that won't make it to their spot, which is, Columbus is Johnny Gaudreau. They got better. Ottawa, they got Claude Giroux. They got Alex DeBrincat. They got a lot better. Now, will they live up to that hype? You got to hope for the Canadiens' sake in this context where they're making the playoffs, that one of those teams or a couple of those teams underperforms. I don't know if you see any specific targets that can help us get to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the Metropolitan to me is a lot less scary than the Atlantic division. Like almost everyone in the Atlantic got better in the offseason
Yeah.
or during the last few seasons. Detroit is like a sleeper playoff team. Like they could easily make the playoffs, I think. Even Buffalo got better too. So I mean, Ottawa as well. Like all these teams that were like not even sniffing the playoffs are now in the race again. So it's putting us even further back. And I think multiple teams have to have like dumpster fire seasons for the Habs to have a chance. I'm looking at Toronto though with their
Really?
I honestly their goaltending scares me. Their goaltending really scares me. They're relying on Matt Murray, who, for lack of better terms, shit the bed in Ottawa, and he is proven. He has 2 cups, but I mean, I don't see how they got him as their kind of number one guy. You know.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Those are the 5 reasons, though, that the Habs could potentially make the playoffs. And the long list that we probably... Sorry, what?
I had to shit on Toronto a little bit there. Like, I had to add that.
Yeah, you did. You did. You have to. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs, and they haven't won a cup since 1967. That being said, the 5 reasons that we've identified. Why make this video? It's a great question. But that's us, the No Respect Podcast, making content that you probably are not asking for. So do we want the Habs to make the playoffs? No. We know that this team is in a rebuild, but these are the things that we believe need to happen for them to make the playoffs. If you see any reasons that the Habs can somehow squeak in, do you want it to happen? Most probably not, but let us know in the comments down below. Make sure to join our new Discord server, subscribe, liking, all of those things. A great thing for us if you may. But if not, we'll see you in the next video. Have a good one, and go Habs go.